Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today I'm making a video all about the most important players in FPL, in the entire game. Who are the players you absolutely must buy? Now these are kind of players you kind of have to put in your team before anything else. So before you start filling in your team, put in just a couple of players to start you off, get you started, and then you can play around with the rest of it. We're talking about the spine of the team, the bones of the team. That's what we really need to find out before we do anything else when creating a fantasy team. And guys, if these players that I'm talking about today are not in your team, you could be landed in some serious trouble, as you know, it's going to be catastrophic because everyone else will have them and you won't. So as such, for the sake of this video, I am going to be calling these players essential. Obviously there's no such thing as essential really, and there are many ways to play FPL, but these are 4 players I will be terrified to go without in game week 1, to an extent where I think I kind of have to have all 4 of them. And I've then got a further 3 players that I would highly recommend. They've kind of been in every draft I've made so far, in the vast majority of the drafts that I've seen from other people. So these are really key important players as well, which I guess are optional, but I would really strongly recommend that you put in your team. And then finally, I'm going to be sharing with you some players who many of you think would be essential players, but actually they're not essential players at all. I don't think you absolutely need them. They are good players, but you don't need them. If you don't want to have them, don't feel forced to have them. So I'm going to save that till the end. Hopefully you have a few surprises in this video. I'm always liking to surprise you with some stuff. Of course, guys, if you do enjoy this video, please do leave a like. And if you want FPL content pretty much every day, please do consider subscribing to the channel as well. And before we look at the most essential players in the game, a quick word from today's sponsor. And today's video sponsor is Surfshark, which is my new favourite VPN. And if you don't know what a VPN is, it stands for Virtual Private Network, a service that keeps your identity safe online from hackers, scammers, allows you to be private in your browsing. Whatever you want to browse, it's all completely private and safe, and no one can access your information, which I know is very important in modern day. But also there's a little bit more to it than that, because Surfshark allows you to browse the internet as if you were in a different country. So if you don't have access to certain football channels and networks in your country, no problem, set your location to somewhere else using Surfshark and you can now access it. Are you getting the "this content is unavailable in your country" message? No problem, switch country using Surfshark. Are you on holiday and you want to access the stuff that you watch at home but can't? Maybe you want to watch Match of the Day or some live sports? No problem, use Surfshark to switch locations. Have you watched everything on Netflix and want to unlock all the content on USA Netflix, Indian Netflix, Japanese Netflix, North Macedonian Netflix? I don't know if that's a thing, but maybe it is. But no problem, you can switch countries to North Macedonia and access the content that Netflix provides to the North Macedonian people. Absolutely amazing, right? Just use Surfshark. You can protect your identity online, you can be safe online, and you can access web content from around the world no matter where you are. And you can now get 83% off and 3 months extra for free using the code FPLMates, all one word, at checkout, or you can simply click on the link in my description. So supporting Surfshark supports this channel. You get a great service for a heavily discounted fee in return. I think everyone wins here, and I'm going full time on YouTube in like 2 days. So yeah, please do help me out by checking out Surfshark. I know you guys are not going to regret it. So let's start off with the most obvious essential player in the entire game, and that is Mo Salah. Currently, as I record this video, he is on a 49.9% ownership. So he is in nearly half of the teams in FPL. 50% of people already have Salah, and the other 50%, I do not know what you are thinking. Honestly, lots of people, most of you guys probably already have Salah, fair enough, but a lot of you guys might be thinking, okay, I can go without Salah, it's going to be absolutely fine, nothing to worry about here. But trust me guys when I say that every competitive fantasy Premier League manager is going to have Salah in their team. They're going to captain Salah on game week 1. The game week 1 is not the time to try and be different. Let's just go in with a fairly safe team, very predictable things, and then as we get more information, we see what teams are doing well, which teams are changing their tactics, which players are becoming more important, which players are having really good seasons, which players are not having so good seasons, maybe they've been dropped from the teams. All of this information is going to come out over the first few game weeks. What we really want to do is make sure that our initial game week 1 team is safe, and then we can start to adapt to how the situation of the season adapts around us, and be flexible like that. But Salah is definitely a player you just want to go in, captain on the first day, very safe pick. You can captain Salah pretty much any game week whatsoever, and there are a few game weeks in the first 10 game weeks where you absolutely have to captain Salah. It looks so good. He's been one of the highest scoring players in FPL history pretty much. He is, every single season he is one of the, if not the highest scoring player in the entire team. He's a midfielder and he's a goal scoring midfielder, which is perfect, exactly what we need. He's on penalties. He's just super important to Liverpool, and he plays every single game pretty much. And yeah, there's just so much to like about Salah, so definitely have him in the first player in your draft. It should be Salah. The first player you click on when you're making a new team has to be Salah. I really strongly feel that way. Next is Bruno Fernandes, and he's at 41.6% owned, so he's actually the third most owned player in Fantasy Premier League. Salah is obviously the first, but Fernandes is the third most owned player, third most popular. So most teams who are competitive, again, are going to have Fernandes. When I made the video the other day about who were all the pundits putting in their team, we kind of saw Bruno Fernandes in 7 out of 8 teams. Really important. But with this player, it's not just the fact that he is a fantastic player who is key to a lot of the stuff that Manchester United do, but it's the fact that he is the FOMO player. He really is the FOMO player. So although we might think, okay, Fernandes dropped off at the end of last season, maybe didn't get a proper chance with Portugal, maybe Manchester United might not get as many penalties this season, maybe Fernandes plays a slightly deeper role. I think all of these things are true, and I do think that the 12 million price tag on Fernandes is quite off-putting to a lot of people, including me. I would hopefully like to pay, I don't know, a little bit less for him in an ideal world, and having both Salah and Fernandes does kind of limit what you can do with the rest of your team, because that's kind of it. If you're going for both of them, that's the only premiums you can have in your team in terms of premium attackers anyway, which is a little bit of a shame. It is a little bit of a shame, but there is the FOMO factor. If people are highly owning Fernandes, Manchester United get an odd penalty in the first couple of games, a lot of people are captaining Fernandes, suddenly you're going to be at a real disadvantage if you don't have Bruno in your team. So you do have to have him, because if you don't, and he does bang, he does do really well, you're going to find yourself chasing. And the last thing you want to be doing is going into the first 5-6 game weeks and you're suddenly chasing, and you start to have to throw in all these differentials, trying to get way ahead of the game, and don't let your game adapt naturally. You'll find yourself in the back foot, and I don't want that to happen to any of you guys, and I certainly don't want it to happen to myself either. So for that reason, Bruno Fernandes has got to be considered an essential player. The next essential player is Trent Alexander-Arnold, 27.4% owned, which makes him the 10th most popular. I think he's a little bit less popular because I think he's kind of outscored by players like Robertson last season, only just. There wasn't really much in it, but we did see Robertson play really well at the first half of the season, but in the second half of the season, Trent Alexander-Arnold came alive. He was the most creative player in the entire league. He was kind of on these free kicks. He was taking plenty of shots. He was so important to Liverpool, and he really still felt like he really had something to prove, and he was just playing absolutely amazingly and became an essential player in the second half of last season. Now Liverpool do have some really nice fixtures to start off the season, and a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold in a defence that is now going to have Van Dijk back in the defence. We're going to have players like Matip, Gomez, Konate all fit and ready to go. This Liverpool defence is going to be so much better than it was last season. So we're going to have a much higher chance of clean sheets. This is going to allow a lot more freedom to Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold. But with Trent Alexander-Arnold, not only are you getting a player who is freely running up the pitch, but he's also so creative, takes shots on, scores goals, takes set pieces as well. And there is so much to like there with Trent Alexander-Arnold. And there's going to be even more this season when Liverpool hopefully finally have an actually fit and full defence that is going to be around Trent Alexander-Arnold to get you those clean sheets as well. So really important that you do go for Alexander-Arnold in your team. He's another, in my opinion, essential players. And the final essential player is actually Lamptey. I know, guys, you probably didn't expect it, but the way a lot of us like to play Fantasy Premier League is to go for 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 4.5 million defenders that you can rotate into your team depending on fixtures and stuff like that. It's a really cheap way to avoid paying a lot of money for defenders, because you can either go for a 4 million defender and a 6 million defender and then just play the 6 million defender every single game, or you can rotate 2 4.5 million defenders, and it's actually cheaper to kind of do that, and you arguably get more benefit from it. Now, Lamptey, as a 4.5 million defender, has the best attacking output of any 4.5 million defender in terms of per game played. Every time we see him play, he is incredibly attacking, far more so than any other 4.5 million defender, because really, the 4.5 million defenders shouldn't really be very attacking players. These are players who should have pretty base level attacking acumen, and maybe get a few clean sheets. That's why they're so cheap. But Lamptey has been arguably mispriced so cheap. He's a 5 million player, really, in my opinion, that has been incorrectly listed as 4.5 million, and because of that, we have to take advantage of that. Now, he is the 19th most owned player, and I know why that is. It's because a lot of people who make their fantasy teams just look at the high scoring players and see, oh hey, Lamptey, he's not one of the highest scoring players, but because he had injuries last season, he couldn't be one of the highest scoring players. But when he was playing, he was absolutely amazing, absolutely fantastic, and absolutely essential player at the time, and he's going to be an essential player at the start of the season this year. Again, you saw in my pundits video the other day, every single person had Lamptey in their team, and that was for a very, very, very good reason. And the reason is, he's essential. He really is essential, and you're going to struggle to do better for 4.5 million defenders than Lamptey. He's the one I would go for. He's the one pretty much everyone else is saying that they go for. So for that reason, essential. So for my first almost essential player, a player who's not quite essential, but he's kind of almost there, we have got Luke Shaw. He's the second most owned player in the game, 45.9% owned. 5.5 million is an excellent price for a Manchester United defender who has excellent attacking output and will be playing pretty much every single game for Manchester United, if not every single game, which is really good. So Manchester United hopefully going to keep a few more clean sheets this season. They are looking to improve their defence, as we can see sort of, Rafael Varane coming into Manchester United potentially there. So that's going to be really good for Manchester United fans, but it's also going to mean clean sheets, and it's also going to mean, Shaw, the attacking beast that he is going to go forward, create loads of chances. So essentially we kind of have a mini Trent Alexander-Arnold in many ways, because he is capable of taking a few corners as well, set pieces there. So we've got a mini Trent Alexander-Arnold there for Manchester United for a lot cheaper at 5.5 million, and that's why he is so popular. I would not even think about going for any other Manchester United defenders. Just go for Shaw. He's a great price. He offers you so much, and yeah, I think he's going to have another very, very good season. Watkins is also almost essential. He's 33.4% owned. That's the 7th most owned player in the game. When I look at the strikers, and I think out of the strikers, out of the forwards in the game, who is the player I would most likely to have? Who is the first forward on my team sheet? Well, it's Watkins for me. Aston Villa start off with some really nice fixtures, playing 2 promoted teams. In the first 3, you've got Watford there and Brentford as well, so that's really nice. And, with Grealish there, Buendia, 2 of the most creative players in the entire league behind a striker like Watkins, that's going to be really good. It looks like Aston Villa aren't going to sign another striker to replace Watkins, so that does mean Watkins is going to continue to be the star man. He did so well last season. He kept getting points over and over and over and over again. Did so well, and I think that's exactly the same thing is going to happen this season. And finally, we've got Rafinha for almost essential. He's 24.7% owned, so he's actually only the 14th most popular player in the game. But I still do think he is almost essential. He was in 8 out of 8 of the pundits team that I had a look at the other day. And I think that's just because the 6.5 million, and when we're talking about having Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Bruno, all in our teams, we do have to find some budget elsewhere, and Rafinha does offer some really, really good value. So he's kind of the second best attacking player behind Bamford in Leeds United. If we're thinking Leeds are going to have another really good season, then it's most likely that Rafinha is going to have a really good season. He is incredibly, incredibly creative. One of, if not the most creative player in the entire league. I'll put him up there with Trent Alexander-Arnold for his creativity. He's on all of the set pieces and stuff other than penalties, and it's just fantastic to see him play. He's fun to watch, he's fun to own in FPL, and I think he is almost essential and definitely the best midfielder you can get for your money using 6.5 million or less. So if you're looking for that budget midfielder, he's the one to go for. And finally, here is a list of some not essential players, some non-essential players who a lot of you guys might think they're essential. Certainly looking at the popularity of these players, maybe they are considered essential in many ways. So all of these players feature in the top 10 most popular players, but I don't think they're essential. Now, they are very good players. They are but I want to reiterate that these are players that you don't feel like you have to have all of these. Don't even feel like you have to have even one of these. If you don't want them in your team, don't put them in your team, and it really is as simple as that. So they are still really popular. They could still technically do some damage to you if they do really well, but I wouldn't be worried as much about these players. So Martinez, first of all, 39.6% owned. He's the 4th most popular player in the game, as you saw in my finding the next Martinez video the other day. That I do think there is going to be other goalkeepers who are going to score just as much, if not more points than Martinez this season. Particularly Meslier, who is not a very popular goalkeeper at all, really. You can get Meslier for 0.5 million cheaper, and I do think he is going to score a similar amount of points, if not more, than Martinez this season when I look at the stats. We've got Grealish there, who we don't really even know what the situation is. Is he going to stay at Aston Villa? If so, he could be a great option. Is he going to move to Manchester City? In which case, how much game time is he going to play? He's going to actually start to become a bit of a headache player. And I feel like a lot of people are putting in Grealish in their teams because they're not really sure who else to put in around that value for a midfielder. There's not really too many options there. So I just would want you to feel, guys, that you don't have to get him. Obviously, he's a great option, but you don't have to get Grealish in your team. We've got Tony there, who is a bit of an unknown quantity. He never played in the Premier League before. Is he going to take a little bit of a while to adjust? Brentford in general going to take a little bit of a while to adjust. Tony obviously scored a lot of his goals last season for penalties. Are Brentford going to be able to get as many penalties? Are they even going to have the opportunity to be in and around the box as much this season as they were last season in the Championship? I don't think so. So don't expect too much from Tony, particularly straight away. He's definitely a good pick. He's a really good price at 6.5 million, but I don't think he's essential. DCL is obviously a really good shout as well. He's 8 million, which I think is what makes him non-essential, because if you can go for a Watkins or an Antonio, Iheanacho maybe, Callum Wilson, I think all of those options are just as good as DCL, to be honest. So don't worry too much about thinking you have to go for DCL. Even though he is the 8th most popular player, there are other players that could quite easily replace him in your team if you do prefer those players. And finally, we've got Kane. He's the 9th most owned player at 28.6% owned. A lot of people are going for Kane. I understand why a lot of people are going for Kane. He obviously had a fantastic season last year, but again, we don't really know what the situation with Kane is yet. Is he going to stay at Spurs? Is he going to move to Manchester City? We don't really know, do we, at this stage? If he moves to Man City, I would say that, okay, yeah, he becomes an absolutely incredible option. Don't know if it becomes essential necessarily. Even at Spurs, he is going to be absolutely incredible, but we don't quite know how Spurs are going to play under the new management, do we? So, yeah, there's some question marks there, but I think the biggest off-putting thing about Kane, and the reason, because if it wasn't for this reason, he probably would be essential, but the reason why I don't think Kane is essential is because of the amount of money he costs. And if you are putting Kane in your team alongside Salah and Bruno, who I think are more essential than Kane, then you're going to really have a very weak team. The rest of your team is going to be so weak, so it's not really possible to fit in Salah, Bruno and Kane. For that reason, Kane has kind of got to be the player that's sacrificed if you're going to go for those other heavy hitting players, you know. So for that reason, yeah, it's difficult to call Kane essential, as much as we all know how many points he can score, how many goals he can score, how many assists he can get, and what an incredible player he is for club and for country, and probably will be whatever club he does move to, if he moves. A lot of variables here, guys, as you can probably tell. But those are my players who I think are popular, but I don't think they're necessarily essential for you. So there we go, guys. That is the end of the video. I hope you did enjoy it. Please do leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy what you saw today. Really helps out the channel indeed. Do go check out Surfshark if you are in the market for a VPN service. I definitely do recommend it. It does seem it's really good from how much I've used it so far. So, you know, it's got to be done. And, you know, VPN, it's just so important to have that online security and stuff in your life. So, yeah, helps the channel out. Go check out the link in the description. Aside from that, guys, plenty more videos to come, of course. We are going to be doing some streams and stuff as well very soon, because I know I haven't chatted to you live on stream for a little while now, and I'd quite like to catch up with you guys and see what you guys are up to with your fantasy teams and in life in general. But there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.